Welcome back to part two of our eye-opening series on aging. I am your host, Dr. Sheila Hodgman-Dover, and I'm extremely grateful that you have joined us for this important conversation. In part one, we began debunking some of the dangerous myths surrounding aging, and today we're going even deeper. And who better to guide us than our incredible guests? First, we are especially blessed to welcome our special guest, my dear friend Teresa Duncan, whose 91 years of lived experience bring profound wisdom to this conversation. Teresa, your vibrant spirit is living proof that aging isn't about decline, but about continuing to grow, contribute, and find joy at every stage. We are also honored to be joined again by the Mental Health Avengers, our team of brilliant experts who can share cutting edge insights on maintaining cognitive, emotional, and spiritual health as we age. Get ready for an enlightening discussion that will change how you think about growing older. I'm extremely honored that you guys have taken the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us again today to discuss part two of aging and mental health. Mental health is very important. But before we go any further, I would like both of you to please take a moment to introduce yourself again while we wait for our special guest to come in. So, can both of you take a few moments to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Shanti. I'm a neuromodulation therapist and LPC, and, and I currently am licensed in Oklahoma and Texas.
Hi, my name is Marita, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm licensed in the state of Oklahoma.
So, to explore aging and mental health, we will use the Spices plus F framework. We'll be examining spirituality, physical health, intellectual health, creativity, emotional, social, as well as financial. So, spiritual resilience in the face of loss, physical vitality beyond prescriptions, intellectual engagement against cognitive decline, creativity as medicine, how art, music, and innovation helps us focus, emotional ecosystems such as grief, joy, and everything between, social relationship in later lives, and financial security as a form of liberation. So let's start with spiritual well-being. How do you think spirituality or a sense of purpose influence mental health in older adults?
I think many times you see older people who are, let's say, religious, they will dive more into the church. They'll do more like deacon board, spending time doing the choir, going to church more days, Christianity speaking, obviously. And I believe that I've heard them say that it gives them more of a sense of purpose, especially with the end coming more soon than not. So giving them more of a comfort as to what's next.
For sharing, Shanti, maybe what do you think?
I think when it comes to that question, I'm thinking about hope. I think spirituality gives them a sense of hope. I know a lot of times when people get older, they start to withdraw. They feel that society does not have anything for them anymore. And so I think it gives them, a sense of hope and a sense of purpose, to know that they have something that, they can more say call their own, or more say that they can carry with them wherever they go.
Yes, I'm going to play the devil's advocate now. So, are you saying that people who don't believe in spirituality or religion would not have any sense of hope as they age and as they become an elder?
Not necessarily. I mean, when you think about it, if you were to look at, for instance, Alcoholic Anonymous, right? A lot of people are not believers. They don't believe in God. And so they believe in a higher being. They believe in something. So I think just a belief in anything, whatever that may be for any person, I think that can give them hope. The belief in that my life will be different than it is today, tomorrow. That's a reason for hope.
Okay. Shanti, how about you? What do you think?
I think hope can be given based on what you have seen on a day or the things that you haven't seen. And that's where the hope comes in that things could be better. So the hope that, let's say, things aren't going well for them, maybe terminal illness or just don't have a very good support system, maybe the hope that one day that will change.
Makes sense. Okay, so now let's talk about the body. Physical health and mental health are deeply intertwined, especially as we age. What causes mobility to decline?
You said mobility to decline?
Yes, what causes the mobility to decline?
The body not working as well as it used to.
And is that something we could prevent as people age? Is that something that can prevent from happening?
Yes and no. Bodies are going to have limitations with each stage of life. Like a baby can't run a sprint, just like older people actually can sometimes. But our bodies are designed to be able to do different things at different ages. However, with exercise, determination, stretching, that can be delayed but not stopped.
Okay. Marita, do you think it can be stopped? Is Shanti correct? It can be delayed but not stopped?
I think so, but also too, I think it depends on the person and their mindset. Because, there's some people as they get older, they tend to get, afraid, of a lot of things, like afraid of falling. And so what do? They don't move around a lot, and that can hinder, their mobility. So I think, like Shanti said, and also too, like I said, it could be their mindset. Because I've heard of people like in their 90s, like running marathon. I can't even run a marathon.
I know, I've seen that. I've seen that many times. I'm feeling jealous. I wish I could.
Right,
Okay,
and
so
I couldn't do it.
yeah. Okay, so the Bible says there's a time to heal and time for, so we all know there's time for staying physically active is key to aging. But aging also demands adapting to change. What habits or routine have helped elderly people to remain physically fit?
Some habits I've seen are maybe they have a group of them that take walks on a regular basis. Just any kind of activity that gets them not necessarily outside, but outside can help with that motivation. Some people will go to the pool and get their exercise that way. Just groups of people that can do it with them
That's
can help.
true. Some people say that they've been told to remain inside because when they walk too much, they will experience too much pain. And so some people have been given advice to not become physically fit. I've heard a few people say that. And to me, that doesn't make much sense to me. But I don't know if you've ever heard anyone say anything similar.
Depending on their physical limitations. So, like if they have arthritis, there may be different things that they can or can't do, depending on where the arthritis is in their body as well. Different terminal illnesses, not even just terminal, different illnesses affect different parts of the body, which may prevent them from being able to walk and move the way that other people who don't have those have.
In other words, everybody doesn't have the same experience. So some people would be able to be physically active more than some. But the truth is remaining physically active At some point is very important. You can't just give up on being physically active. Otherwise, my mom used to say, use it or lose it. Have you ever heard that?
Yes.
Yep, use it or lose it. Okay, so let's move on to the intellectual side of life now. Let us now focus on the intellectual dimensions. We have heard the saying, use it or lose it. So it doesn't apply just to the physical side of life, it also applies to the brain. How can we keep aging minds active? How can we help the elderly keep their aging mind active, especially when they're isolated or, dementia enters the picture? How can we keep the aging mind active?
Some ways can be crossword puzzles, word searches, Tetris. Actually, saw a study. I know this doesn't necessarily have to do with aging, but if you, and I don't know how great this study is, but if you do Tetris shortly after a traumatic event, then it doesn't store in your brain the same way. So keeping the mind active, and it can be really fun with different kinds of games. It doesn't have to be, oh, I have to go study a book.
I
And
heard of a lot of older people like watching like TikTok videos and stuff like that. And I guess it helps to stimulate their minds when you think about it, you know.
Depends
And
on what they're
it depends on what they're watching, yeah. And yeah, because not everything on TikTok is good. And I know a lot of older people who like to do those puzzles, those puzzles that you put together. They come in those boxes and they will have beautiful pictures on them. I don't know how people could do that because I have tried and I just couldn't. But a lot of times they do that, to keep their minds stimulated and to help them, stay focused. A lot of times they play games on their phones, because that helps their mind to keep active, So there's
another
a
thing,
lot of ways that you can engage them, yeah.
that's true. Something I think of is that asking them questions about the early years in life and the experiences helps a lot. It keeps the brain, helps send fireworks in their brains and bring back excitement and joy. Just ask them to remember exciting times that they experience, especially if you know their life story. Even if you've heard it 100 times, ask them a question about it because they get excited. And that, for them, they don't mind telling the same story over and over.
That's true. Because you'd be like, I heard that 1,000,001 time, but you never say that to them. But
Yes. One of the things I used to do with my mom every Sunday when she was alive, I would ask her to tell me when she was born, even though I knew when she was born. I would ask her to tell me how many kids she has, when they were born, and ask her a lot of things about her childhood days, even though I knew it already. And she would get excited. But the most important thing that excited her most was when I asked her things about the Bible, because she was a walking little Bible. She knew the Bible. She knew the Bible inside out. So I would ask her things about the Bible, and she memorized a lot of Bible verses. So I would ask her to repeat like Psalms 23 and some of the other Psalms, and her brain will just go excited, just asking her to remember those things that she remembered, she recorded in her memory from small days. Is there anything you have ever experienced that when you ask an elderly person that they got excited and help?
Not necessarily asked, but anytime they share a story and you give them undivided attention, they're just happy to share. And you don't cut them off. You don't try to shorten the story. You don't look irritated or like you have something else to do. If you just give them full undivided attention, they're super happy to share.
That is true.
I used to like, when my grandmother was alive, I used to like hearing the stories that she would tell about us when we were younger that I don't remember. And there's this funny one that she gave about my brother that I would not repeat. But those were just funny, just listening, to her. Yeah, older people are, I think, like they have a wealth of information, and it's important, I feel like, to document that somewhere, because it's almost as if like you're merging like two different worlds, like our world and their world. And think about it now, we're merging with another set. What do they call them? Like the Gen Zs, I think. It's so different, all the different worlds merging. So, yeah.
I suggest we dive into the creative side of life now. I know it would have been more creative if we had our guest who was supposed to be here today, but unfortunately, she had a death in the family, and so she will not be here today. Our 91-year-old friend, Teresa Duncan, was supposed to be our distinguished guest today. So, even though she's not here, we're going to continue talking about the creative side of life. I would suggest so, creativity isn't just for artists, it's a lifeline for mental health. Yes, it's often overlooked in elderly care. Let's change that. What creative outlets can caregivers introduce to spark joy in elderly with limited mobility?
Well, like Marita mentioned, jigsaw puzzles. Like you don't have to have too much mobility to be able to do it. You have to do a lot of thinking, but not too much mobility. Um, Watching different things on TV or on your phone. That's a lot of different creative ways.
Music comes to my mind when I think of that question, music.
Definitely.
I'm thinking about who is it? I think my youngest, I think it's my youngest brother. Um, by father's side, his grandmother used to make baskets and hats out of the coconut, the coconut tree, those their branches, those long stems. And she couldn't really walk that much, and she just used to sit in her chair and just make those things, and it always fascinated me. I tried to do it, but unfortunately there's just certain things I'm not good at. But the things that she made were just out of this world. Yeah, so sometimes they might not be able to move as fast as we want them to move, but they still have their hands that they can do things with. Yeah. And I'm also reminded of this woman at the market. I don't remember her name, but she always used to say, I didn't go to high school. Like she just had a basic elementary schooling, but she could count. You give her any amount of money and she could tell you exactly what the change was going to be while you had to pull out your calculator. So because
Yes.
they're not mobile, it doesn't mean that they can't use their brains or they can't use their hands.
Mhm. I know my aunt, as well as my mom, but I had two aunts who just passed away last year, Auntie Marian in Schooners. She used to make baskets from everything. Any empty bottle, empty container, she would make baskets from them. I mean, think of art and craft, you name it, they could do it. It's anything that would have been considered junk can be turned into a craft when it came to my aunt. And they knew how to sew, they knew how to make clothes, make ornaments, toys.
Yeah.
I mean, every junk could be turned into something valuable. They knew how to do it. And she was in her 80s, 90s, and still know how to make stuff with her hands.
Mhm. Like my grandmother, she was 93 when she passed a few years ago, and she wore no glasses whatsoever, which is so interesting because most of her children now wear glasses. And she could sew, thread a needle. So my mother used to go and ask her to thread the needle for her. But she was pretty good at that, and she just used to thread it so.
Yep. It's sad that this new generation, when we come in this generation, in their time, come to be sitting at home and not have the ability to be mobile, I don't know if there's going to be enough creative things to do because this modern generation is just strictly into technology and internet and
Yeah.
computer. Virtual world. I
And
think
technology.
they will have to be in a virtual world instead of making things with their hands.
Well, I
Yeah. And
a lot of younger kids like making bracelets. They like doing crafts like that.
Oh
I
yes,
know
I've
my daughter
seen.
have some clients that love to sew, that love to do patchwork, quilt, crochet. So it's not all lost yet.
Okay,
yeah.
that's good to know that we still have a remnant who is holding on to the art and craft days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
No,
important.
I back at home too. I could be wrong. I know some things are passed down in the schools, like the elementary schools and stuff like that. So hopefully that could continue because I've seen people back at home make things out of bottles, like broken bottles. You break a bottle, a glass bottle, and they make earrings, they make necklaces and stuff like that. So hopefully those things,
And
are
then
passed
coconut,
down and some.
yeah, as well as like coconut, the coconut shell, they would make baskets
Yeah.
and ornaments and
Mhm.
animals out of those things.
Doves. They like one time I went to a thrift store and I actually had to be a Caribbean person donated it. It was the coconut husk and the bowl. They had two doves. I don't know if you remember, everyone used to have them in their house. Two doves,
Yes,
and then the coconut was open where you can drop things. And I was like, it
yes.
had to be a Caribbean person. That brought me back to childhood. The things that used to be made when I was younger, like my mother, I remember her used to make during the Christmas season, they used to take army men and make parachutes, you know, and then we used to go over to the park and they used to throw them down this hill and see the parachutes flying. I mean, I never learned to do those things, make things
Uh-huh.
out of pantyhose, like flowers out of pantyhose.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so many,
I
so
made
many
those.
different things. Yeah.
My sister used to make those. I learned those from her. You get the wire and you put it inside the pantyhose and well, they would color the pantyhose and give it different
Yeah.
colors, different colors. Yes, I
Mhm.
remember those. So there's a lot of
And
art
those
and
things were
craft
passed
that,
down. Yeah.
yeah, but a lot of them seem like they're not going to be passing down after a certain period of time because I firmly believe that about half of the new generation are just into technology.
Mhm.
Ex- Half.
Yeah.
It seems like half of them are just into technology. They're not into the hands-on learning arts and craft. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, let's focus on the fight, flight, or freeze response. In the context of caregiving for elderly loved ones, how might a caregiver be creative and discern when to stand firm, when to fight, when to step back and flight, or pause and reflect in challenging situations? So could you provide an example of when each response, fight, flight, or freeze response, might be appropriate when you're caring for an elderly?
Well, fight advocacy, um, like if something's wrong with them physically and maybe the doctors aren't listening or they keep telling you about a certain complaint, but nothing's being done, you have to advocate for them with their doctors.
I would like to say a huge thank you to our wise and wonderful guest, my 91-year-old friend, Teresa Duncan, for sharing your incredible journey with us today. Your perspective is a living testament to the truth that aging is not just about growing older. It's about growing deeper in purpose, joy, and faith. And to our distinguished experts, the mental health avengers, thank you very much for lending your voices to this vital conversation. Your insights on resilience, brain health, and emotional well being have truly equipped us to challenge the myths of aging. To our listeners, Remember, as Ecclesiastes says, there's a time for everything under the sun. We all agree that there's a time to learn, to lean on community, and to celebrate the gift of long life. This episode inspired you. Please share it with someone who needs a fresh vision for aging. And remember, log on to unravelred.com to join the conversation where we'll continue unraveling relationships, emotions, and the beautiful complexities of human desire. Because life isn't just about fight, flight, or freeze, it's about finding your fabulous. And as we close, let's remember aging isn't about counting the years, it's about making the years count. Until next time, keep embracing the extraordinary in every chapter of your life.